Welcome to the 10 in a row Celtic podcast number 9. My name is Graham Wilson, and hopefully we can get this right this time. Joining me, as always, is the green and white writer, Mr. Paul Larkin. Are you there, Paul?
I'm here.
Fantastic. I think we got it sorted out now. Skype is a hun. Spreaker's a hun. Everybody's a hun. And thank you for joining. This is the 9th episode, which means it's only one left after this. So we'll do our best to make it a memorable one. But in the meantime, I wanted to give an update on the Celtic TV issue. Obviously, we've gotten a lot of feedback from folks who had listened to the past 2 episodes, and there was some praise and some criticism at my passion towards the Celtic TV experience, or lack thereof, that I had last week. And I'm pleased to share with everyone that Celtic TV, for me, yesterday to watch the Cliftonville game against, or I should say at Celtic Park, was flawless. The picture was absolutely perfect, and there was no buffering. So happy days, and I want to thank the folks at the help desk at Celtic TV, as well as John Paul Taylor, just fulfilling an absolutely vital and fantastic role within Celtic. So thank you very much. And once again, I did get some feedback from the folks down in Australia that they're still having issues. So please get in touch with webhelp at celticfc.com, and they will do their best to sort you out. And they're very good with the communication. So that would be my suggestion. And all right, great stuff. So, Paul.
Yeah.
I think we should share, sort of the guidelines of the show. 10 in a row. That's the theme. We have 10 topics that we are going to discuss, as we always do every week. We will have 5 minutes to discuss said topics, and at the end of the 5 minutes, you will hear this. That means it's time to move on to the next topic, and move on we will. Would you like to kick things off, Paul?
Yes. First topic is the Cliftonville game last night. I think as you're got to see the whole game, you should take it away.
Yes, I did get to see the entire game, and I was in absolute glory. It was great to see not just a competitive game that Celtic is playing in, something that means a lot, but again, seeing the team play at Celtic Park once again, it was a fantastic evening. Obviously, I would have expected us to put more goals on the board, especially with a lot of the build-up that we had. We had the majority of the possession, so we did have opportunities. It seemed as though in certain circumstances we couldn't put the ball away, but F. Ambrose took his goal quite well, and I like to see that. Obviously, with him taking so much criticism in sort of the run into the end of last season, the off-season. Some of the speculation about his future. Yes, Paul, it's from me. Yeah, exactly. I'm one of his detractors.
It's getting this show is literally getting to the point where it's like earlier and earlier when Effie Ambrose gets mentioned. It's in fact, I think the last show you just had to come on and shout Effie Ambrose as the first opening gambit because I think you were one of the main doubters. Has he been rushed back and all this kind of thing, when he's clearly shown to be the most complete footballer in British football.
Well, you were there in person. Give us your thoughts.
To be honest, I don't think we'll ever play as bad a team in Europe as Cliftonville. We made all disrespect to them. It was never really a contest. I think that was the issue. The main thing I would take for it is the fact that we didn't have anybody now at the football club who's capable of going into the box and poaching goals.
Yeah, I would agree.
It was clearly apparent that, whilst we've got tons of guys who will take the ball in the final third and they'll go wide and they'll try and bring players in and that kind of thing. Now that Gary Hooper's the late, great Gary Hooper, we didn't have anybody that's going to kind of sniff a goal out.
Yeah.
And, I think if we did have last night, we probably would have won about 15-0. Some of the chances we missed were incredible. I've actually, Scott Brown's been at Celtic now for 6 years, and I've never, ever seen him so disgusted as he was when he passed that ball to Stokes and he put it past the post.
I was just dreadful. And it says to me, there's a lot of pressure being heaped on Anthony Stokes just now that he's got to step in and replicate those goals that Gary Hooper would typically be charged with. I'm not so sure he's up to it. Granted, let me ask you this. It is early days. Obviously, this is only maybe the second or third game that Anthony Stokes has played in the preseason. You would expect that he's going to get sharper. How much of that do you peg to this? It can't get any worse in terms of finishing, can it?
I mean, I seen today that he's ditching the boots, which is a kind of, I think that's a way of just saying I know how crap I was last night. But I think you're right. I mean, strikers, especially pre-season, sometimes just hit the ground running and start scoring goals, and Anthony Stokes just hasn't done that so far. Some of his, build-up playing stuff's been pretty good, and excuse me, and general play outside the box and stuff, but the necessity for a goal scorer now has never been more apparent now that Gary's, gone to meet your friend Harry Redknapp. And,
where to, Golf?
Yeah, exactly. That's just his Land Rover window. But, I mean, if you take a game like last night, you're playing against a team who, Cliftonville obviously came there to not get absolutely hammered. Fair play. I mean, I can understand it and that kind of thing. And, once Effie Ambrose scored the goal, his game was finished. That was it. It was just kind of, you could see, there was the guy, everybody around me was talking about last night how tired Cliftonville looked after about 55, 60 minutes.
Yeah, the golf and conditioning, definitely.
Exactly, and then you're thinking, all right, here comes the deluge, and it just didn't happen, and it didn't happen because, we had guys in the park that couldn't hit a barn door for 2 yards, unfortunately.
Yeah.
To
your point, we have these attacking players that can run onto an out ball and can get wide, but nobody, like you say, in the box that can just, put the ball in the back of the net. That Gary Hooper has fulfilled that function for us. It's going to be absolutely vital that we replace him with that style of striker. I think we have an abundance of these attacking players. I don't even know if you'd really call them pure strikers. I know certainly Sammy, I wouldn't consider him a pure out-and-out striker. Chris Commons certainly isn't, although he's sort of being fashioned in that type or presented as such. And Anthony Stokes, I think, is maybe a supporting striker, but he has more of the creative sense. You saw a lot of the examples of him dropping deep to set up those 1-2s that he and Gary Hooper have been so lethal with. But what we were missing was the Gary Hooper element. Amito Balde got a bit of time. You saw it in person again. Give us your thoughts.
I hate to say it, but it was kind of like what the Clive Walker said on Saturday. He was a non-event. I could see exactly what he meant. He had one chance, had a header that the goalie saved pretty easily, which he probably should have done better with. And other than that, he didn't really do much at all. He was sort of going up for years. He is a big guy in terms of his height, but he's no kind of Bobo Baldi material. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that kind of shocked me a bit. I was expecting that to be a bit more, so obviously still willing to give him time and settle in and all that kind of thing. But, you're playing a team that I would say would struggle to stay in the SPL, certainly, and would probably, struggle to promote out the first division. So, you only came home with 50 minutes to go, stuff like that, fine, but, you're not getting many opportunities. So, but what I would just say on that is that what we're requiring is a centre forward, a spearhead, and what we've got right now is kind of inside lefts and inside rights, and that's what we need rectify.
Yeah, and we also have the most complete footballer in Britain right now.
As yes, that'll be proved this season, and you'll be made to eat your own words. Anyway, next topic is the Sun in brackets story from Sunday. What did you make of it?
Well, I'm not surprised. Look at the source, look at the periodical that it's coming from. This is what they specialize in, fabricating stories, sensationalizing, and catering to the lowest common denominator. And that's exactly what you have with this issue, pun intended. It's so trivial. The fact that there's absolutely no proof in terms of who burned the bus down or the bus station or whatever, but yet Neil Lennon and Celtic supporters are immediately fingered for this, and it must have been that, right? Well, it must have been insurance then. It must have been insurance fraud. It's equally libelous. It's equally slanderous from our end. What proof do they even have other than supposition and conjecture? It's just filth. It's everything that you would expect from them. That's essentially what I make of it.
Well, I actually I thought to myself, because I get quite a lot of criticism from journalists about this show, who always claim that we didn't know anything. So I always think, well, why are you complaining? I always think we're worried. And I was told that basically the mistake was made by a sub-editor in London, who just would have put the photos in. This is what I was told, not what I'm saying. Who would have put the photos in as a mistake before it was too late and all that kind of thing, which made me think that if I was a sub-editor for a paper and I was in Scotland and I thought, look at this, something to do with Tottenham here. You know what I'll do? Shout over, can I have some photos of an Arsenal pre-season friendly, please? Come on, I mean, it's like you say, it's like if you're going to put up rumour and kind of innuendo, why is it they always go that way? Why not have a big photo of James Easdale and Douglas Park and Parksy Hamilton coaches and just go, I wonder what could have happened here. No. It's photos of Celtic, it's photos of Neil Lennon, who I think you said was, at least he had an alibi, and he's still in the picture. It's like, what? I mean,
he was in London.
What is this? The Birmingham Six we're talking about? The West Midlands Serious Crime Squad now. I mean, it's absolutely farcical. And fair enough. Sometimes things can just be a mistake. Fine, but the things start on the bloody website all day. And everybody on Twitter was talking about it this Sunday, which means you can guarantee if 1,000 people were talking about it on Twitter, at least 50 of them will have complained to the Sun direct, and then they would have been aware of it. So why was it not taken down? So that's when I think mistakes and all that kind of thing can be put down as absolute nonsense.
And that very point improves it. The whole thing was intentional. They intended to put this story up to generate this filth, this tabloid esque reaction, because they know that. I mean, answering your question about why is it always going one way and not the other, I mean, look at who owns that paper. I mean, and I'm not talking about sort of middle management or the executives all the way at the top. Where do the stories that come from that scumbag always go to? I mean, of course it's right versus left. It's there's always a political element to it. You turn on Sky Sports and now all of a sudden today magically Glasgow Rangers are alive again, as if they got hit with the defibrillator, and the past 3 years haven't happened. It's always going to be that way. They have an obvious bias, catering to a particular mindset, and that mindset belongs to the antithesis of Celtic, to zombies at this point, and they love nothing more than stories. And this is the perfect story from that position. They were wronged. Their bus, their beloved bus that they paid their hard-earned pound to watch on a video, is now burned to the ground. And who else could have possibly done it other than that scumbag Tig Neil Lennon? So you have every element here. It's sympathizing with their core readership and placing the blame against their arch rival. And at the same time, that it's going to whip up all of the Celtic supporters into a friendly, because when they see it, or into a frenzy rather, because when they see it, you whip them up into a friendly, and it's even worse.
We did at Brentford.
Yeah, exactly. And then, well, we're not even going to get into that.
Exactly.
But, and it ties right in, I mean, with the rumors and the smearing and the slander. My next question is, where is our board? This takes it from, essentially piggybacking on the discussion we had in the last show. Where is the board? Where are our balls? Why are we not stepping up and saying, no, you're wrong with that. You're slandering the manager of our football club, and we're going to hold you to account. There wasn't even a peep that came out of it, and not even a call for a retraction, which rightfully would have been within bounds. That to me is shocking.
The issue with that as well for me is that it's privately, we've seen it and all this kind of crap, but Celtic should not need a single supporter to complain about that before they actually do anything. They should be proactive in these kind of things. And everybody in there should be thinking like we do as Celtic supporters and saying, that's wrong, we want that to change. And you just put it on the website straight. We're not happy with this. We want a retraction, we want an apology. Our club and our manager has absolutely nothing to do with that story, therefore the picture shouldn't have been there. End of story. And that's the issue gone. Anyway, next topic. New bar at Celtic Park. I'll be trying to attract Donald Trump with the prices.
Well, you can speak to it better than I can. I am not at Celtic Park regularly enough to even comment on it. I haven't been exposed to it, but the feedback that I get is that it is restrictive to what I would think the majority or many of the Celtic supporters that are coming out. Once again, we have a situation. I mean, we can tie this in with the kits. The away kit was released today. Oh, what a surprise! The design. I was expecting something else, but you go on the website, the Superstore website, $84 US. That's before you put any printing on it, or you get charged the $30 US for shipping over here. So now I need to spend $115 just to get a jersey without anything on it. Just to have it sent here. It's absolutely preposterous, and it ties in with this discussion that we're talking about. I think that the people that are making the decisions in terms of merchandising, in terms of the resources, the bars, the concessions within the stadium are thinking about things based on their own capacity, their own sort of pocketbook. What they can afford, what they think is reasonable, and they're completely out of touch with the common man, the ordinary punter that's going to come out and say, forget that.
Yeah, I mean, I tried to be proactive on this issue and actually contacted them and say, basically, what's the score here? And the kind of feedback I got essentially said that the reason why it was so pricey was because we are not a regular bar. We didn't open every day of the week. Therefore, we didn't buy as much drink per supplier. Therefore, we can't get as big discounts as, say, for example, a Witherspoons would.
That's absolute rubbish.
Yeah, well, that would be all fine and dandy if it wasn't for the fact that we were actually sponsored by the company whose drink is the most expensive in the bar, which is £4.90 for a bottle of Magners.
Exactly.
So, as you say, I mean, they're comparing prices with places like O'Neill's and Metropolitan and the Merchant City, which is absolute nonsense. And they say, you've got to consider the decor. No, I've never considered the decor in a pub, ever. I've considered the prices and what alcohol we sell. That's all I'm interested in when I go into a bar. And, it's like, and then similarly, they're charging £1.50 for a can of juice. And it's like, you'd be buying that out of cash and carry for about 24 cans for about £2, and you're charging £1.50 a can, which just makes it, pretty much irrelevant. Especially when, fans can go, a quarter of a mile across the road to Tesco, to KFC, to Pizza Hut and all that kind of thing, get a far better deal. And, Celtic have got to think about that. They just can't think about always having to make a profit and always having to kind of rip the piss out the fans with the prices and all that kind of thing. And hopefully, I mean, I know for a fact that the club are really aware of the backlash against it. Hopefully it's going to change soon.
Yeah, I would hope that they're going to lower prices, make them more reasonable, and have some discussions with some folks that maybe don't bring in £1 million a year, or sit on the board and are just independently wealthy. I mean, that's not your core customers, and you're pricing essentially the people that you need out. This idea or this rationale that they can't buy in bulk, therefore they don't have the pricing power. That's absolute rubbish. It's nonsense. I mean, essentially what they're saying is we have profits that need to be made, and we can't figure out how to control costs. I'm sorry, that's on you. That's your job. That's why you're getting paid £1 million after bonuses on the course of a year. It's your job to figure out how to keep the costs down. I mean, passing along raw materials costs to customers. I mean, it's another example of them taking advantage of the loyalty of Celtic fans. But the problem from their end in terms of making this financially viable is the loyalty stops with the football club. Okay, you might be able to squeeze a few kits and the merchandise out of people, but they're not going to overpay for a Coca-Cola or a Bovril or something at the bar because they love Celtic. They just won't pay for it. So then what are you going to have? You're going to have spoilage. You're going to have products that are spoiling. You're not making any money on it, and you're going to take an even bigger loss. They need to take a reality check.
Yeah, I mean, it strikes me as a bit like Ryanair policy,
Exactly.
Just keep squeezing, and it has to come to an end. I made a complaint about it yesterday, various things. I mean, I just think, I hate to say it, but I think that with the lowering the season ticket prices, it feels like everything else has just gone through the roof. You mentioned strips earlier, suddenly they're £55 a pop, $85, £100. I mean, that's just ridiculous. And people, I can't stand these selfish people who always say, well, didn't buy it then? Well, that's fine, so you just disappoint your kids.
Yeah.
I mean, you go through your life trying to please your kids, and your kids in it, and you try and scrape and scrounge every penny you can get to make them happy and all that kind of thing. And if they want that strip, thankfully mine didn't, because even they think it's horrific. You didn't have that choice, it's as simple as that. And I just think, there has to be some leeway here, because if this is the way they're going to go, we're just going to price people out the game,
Yeah, no question about it. It's a sad state of affairs, and it needs to get sorted out. I think we've given Celtic and specifically the PLC the benefit of the doubt, quite a bit over the past couple of weeks. I'd like to extend that, and hopefully, like you said, there will be an adjustment made, and something more realistic can take place. Otherwise, they're going to be disappointed by the turnout, and as they typically do, they'll just blame it on the support.
Okay, next topic. I understand this will probably be a short answer, probably one for me to explain. Catering at Celtic Park, same as it ever was.
Yeah, I mean, again, I don't have much of an experience with this, but the feedback.
Let me just give people a bit of background here. In January, before the turn of the year, actually, Frank Pimeli's boys done a survey, which was about the catering in general at Celtic Park for the kind of ordinary punters, no the hospitality, anything like that. And I believe 1,800 people took part, and the vast majority said three things: the food was crap, it was overpriced, and the staff was appalling. Right? So there was various issues around the staff and all that kind of thing. People got in touch with them and got in touch with the homeboys, things like that, and said, look, different issues with the staff, this, that. And I'm saying, okay, that's fine. So Frank then took this mandate, and that's what it was. It was a mandate, 1,800 people as a mandate for one person into Celtic Park. And they said, what we'll do is we'll kind of organise a tasting session at Celtic Park for you and 15 random people to come in, and we'll kind of test various foods. So Frank organised, and he didn't do what some might have done and just got all his mates here for a jolly, that kind of thing. He then, basically got random people to come in and do all that kind of thing. And kind of kept up a bit of a dialogue, with them sort of throughout the course of the season and the expectations and so on and so forth. So that was that. So end of the season comes, close season, you talked, we listened, all that sort of thing. Go back to Celtic Park last night, and the catering is exactly the same, but the prices have been increased.
Ah, lovely. Be Celtic.
And even to rub it more into Frank, the hot dogs are now not being supplied by Rollover, and are being replaced by a company called Frank's. So I just actually never even thought about it, because when I went to Celtic Park last night, I just bypassed all the catering because I had something to eat myself personally. I never even thought about it, and then had gone over to sit beside my mate in the second half because he had a spare seat with him, and I just happened to glance down, and I seen the deal, which was one hot dog, one small drink, one packet of crisps, £7. £7.
What?
And then underneath it said, and I quote, "Save up to 50 pence!" exclamation mark. And I thought, this is unreal. That's actually less. That's actually more expensive than it is to go for the ones in the cinema, which, as you well know, in America as well, it's absolutely extortionate to buy food in a cinema.
Yeah, definitely.
And I just thought, this is unbelievable. So nothing's actually happened. So what I did, I spoke to Frank last night, and he was kind of saying that, he didn't feel that, he basically said that all the stuff that he had done felt a bit fruitless, and that dialogue would have to start again. So I kind of sent an email today, Celtic, and I said, look, I said, this is ridiculous, these prices. I says, if you're taking a couple of kids to a game, and all these deals, £6, £7, I says, you're really a couple of kids to a game, and then unless you want to go hungry yourself, you've got to pay about, £22, £23 for, a hot dog each and a drink each. I mean, that's just absolutely ridiculous, you know what I mean? And as you said, like, when this was brought up, somebody brought this up at the AGM as well, and Peter Lawwell Peter Lawwell himself actually said, our fans didn't want healthy food.
What an arrogant thing to say.
Now, here's the thing, right? Nobody at all has said, what we have to do is scrap pies, scrap bovril, Nobody said that at all. All people are saying is, give people other options.
I mean,
give people healthy options.
That's what an arrogant thing to say. Like, basically, you know what? The slobs that come out of here, they'll eat whatever the hell we throw out in front of them. That's essentially how I heard that.
And you know what it really pisses me off is, it's completely hypocritical of the club, because they win awards every year for their hospitality, the best food and all that kind of thing. They constantly have healthy eating initiatives and healthy lifestyle initiatives.
Who's evaluating that?
Exactly. And then they expect the ordinary punter to go and pay for overpriced crap. It's just unsettled. And again, it kind of ties in with the bar, and it ties in with the strip, that whilst the season ticket prices come down, everything else has gone up. And, they think, captive audience, again, the Ryanair philosophy, just keep pumping them, squeezing them all the time. Fans, and here's the thing, right? I'll tell you right now, I went walked along at half time and looked at it. The catering outlets were not busy. But at half time, we're not busy, and that's with 40,000 people there. And I'm not saying some people will just keep buying it and not give a shit, and fair play to them, they can do what they want, they've got freedom of choice. But all I'm saying is, what harm would it do to give people a healthy, cheap option to buy. Dare I say it, is it because, and I hope it's no, is it because everybody would buy that and the profit margin would go down? Because if that's all we're about is profit margin, then why bother?
Yeah, I would like to think that that's not what it's all about, but the more you hear, the more you have to believe that that's the core element that's driving things.
Okay, Graham, we're back on your specialist subject now.
Okay.
Do we know any more about Elfsborg?
Elfsborg stroke FC Cock, you mean? Yeah.
Apart from the 6'9" goalkeeper and the clock, what else do we know?
Right. Well, so they do have the attacking options for Elfsborg. Now, first off, they're fifth in their table right now. They're in the middle of their season. They've played 16 games so far. But their attacking element obviously is going to include potentially Mohamed Bangura. He scored 6 goals in their first 16 games, and a total of 10 goals in 26 games since he's gone back to Elfsborg, including last season. So
did they sign the right Bangura then?
I don't know which Bangura they got, but it's not as bad of a record as many of us would probably have expected. But they also do have an English boy, James Keane, who has a bit of a longer history with Elfsborg, has been there since, I believe, 2009, but has been loaned out back to primarily English clubs from there. It's an interesting story. But so far this season, he has 5 goals in 16 games. But they also have a veteran that's been with Elfsborg for the better part of 8 years, Lasse Nielsen, who Lasse. Yeah, if you can obviously make up the potential songs that would come out of that. You can go Lassie go, or yeah. Anyway, so he's had about 26 goals in a total of 80 games played for Elfsborg. I would say the majority of them have been over the past couple of years. So certainly, there are some attacking options there. I've talked to several people who have a familiarity with the Swedish league, and they've all said to a person that we should not have any issues in taking them down. Of course, the question marks and the concerns and the issues from our end are really going to be paramount, especially losing Victor Wanyama, and with it being confirmed that Gary Hooper is not going to be with us for then. We only have until tomorrow to bring someone in that can be that poacher that we're saying we desperately need.
Yeah, I mean, that's a concern. I must admit, it is a concern because although we know, I said, when Gaffer came on and beat Homeboys on Monday and basically said we were out, I finished to say, Swedish football was what you just explained there about the people that I spoke to regarding who knew Swedish football, said it was on the downside, we'd have no problems on that kind of thing. And that we did also obviously beat 2 teams mid-season last summer when we always have that kind of issue.
Handily, mind you.
The reality is, according to Gaffer, we were lucky in every game, all 4 games, very lucky, outplayed in them all. So.
Nonsense.
Now, apart from the fact that we've also got the most complete player in British football, we have to accept that we weren't as good a team as we were at that stage last season.
Yeah.
We might be in the next couple of weeks, bringing the right players, etc., etc., etc. But right now, we're not.
Yeah.
So that is a concern. There's no doubt about it. That is a concern. I'll be really, really happy if I see people like Joel Edley on Saturday get 90 minutes under their belt, because I think they'll be crucial.
Really missing him.
I don't think Scotty Brown is sparking into life yet.
Really?
Nah, I think he basically, let's say it, it's because he's got an absolute dick beside him.
It doesn't help. It doesn't help.
Pretty much the way Roderick looked absolutely hopeless with the same player beside him, and then looks good every other time.
Yeah.
But then, I look at Celtic. I mean, on Wednesday, the biggest enemy is ourselves.
Yeah, I agree.
Not just the team, the supporters as well. Supporters can't be fanning about outside, getting pies, whatever, paying the fortunes for the catering. They need to be in that kick-off like they would be if we were playing Barcelona, right? And they need to be up for it right away, because I don't give a fuck who Elfsborg are. They come to Celtic Park. I mean, there's 40,000 there against Cliftonville, even though the BBC tried to say there was only 29,000 there. There needs to be at least the same there on Wednesday. I know it's pie again, it's 20 quid. I'm not happy about that either, because I think as a qualifier before a tournament, we shouldn't be paying 20 quid for that. But the fact is, We need as many people there as possible, because if we roar into this, we could easily win 3 or 4 nothing on Wednesday, and I wouldn't even nobody would bat an eyelid.
And the tie is done and dusted at that point. I agree completely. Get the bums in the seats, get the atmosphere going from the first minute. And get behind the team. There are some players who are either coming back from injury or are new to the side and could really use the lift and use the boost. And like you said, I mean, Ellsborg is not going to come in, thinking, oh fuck, we're playing against Celtic. They were in the last 16. They want to win. And I think that they're if they're managed properly, they're going to come in thinking that they can win, and they're going to be fighting. And I think that to a certain extent, if I'm a manager looking at Celtic and trying to pick them apart, obviously I'm going to take note of the fact that it's early doors and many players haven't really rounded themselves into full match sharpness or fitness yet. But we're still having a similar sort of one-dimensional aspect of the sideways passes and passing back, and that's you give Rogic stick, but the one aspect that I like about him is he always has his head up the park. He's always looking for a forward option, which is it's vital for us at this point. The dick next to Scott Brown, I'm assuming you're talking about Kyle. I think that he's just listing, and he's one injury away from his Celtic career being over. But with that being said, if we have somebody that can keep us looking forward, who's not afraid to take on a man, I think that's going to be absolutely vital. We talk about the tempo dropping. There's nothing that kills tempo more than taking the ball around the halfway line and then passing it back to your center half. I mean, you need to. The one answer that we've had commonly has been width, but we have no sort of link up through the center channel unless Chris Commons is running through the middle and he has a couple of seconds on the ball, and that's becoming more and more rare.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the only real directness we have at the minute is James Forrest, but unfortunately we're not playing with, as I say, the speedhead striker, so people only instinctively following Forrest into the box and that. His delivery was a bit poor last night, I'll grant you that. In terms of Kyle, I mean, we're just exposing this guy completely. He's not good enough to play in that position. He never will be. He's a defensive protector. You put him in front of a back two, he'll look great. Just detail him. Stick to there. There's your radius, 20 metres either side, whatever. Boom, fine. To actually ask him to come and dictate the play is absolutely ludicrous.
Yeah,
what I mean? It's like it would be like asking that new stadium announcer to be quiet the next time he says. It's just we need to be much more clinical against Elfsborg than we were against Cliftonville. That is really essential, because we've got the players to do it. I mean, look, we've got an experienced defence in there. We've got an experienced goalkeeper in there. And it's really good to have all these guys fit. Guys like Lustig and Wilson and Ambrose and Zagiri, they're all fit. I mean, that's not something that's happened a lot, in recent years. So, I'm looking forward to the game, but I suppose we'll find out a lot more about Elfsborg on Wednesday.
Next topic.
It's from you.
Oh, lovely. Well, we're playing against Borussia Mönchengladbach on the weekend. Wunderbar. Nice.
I could tell you're just going to lapse into a German accent.
Super duper Schwanzenstückers. Yes, the Schwanzenstückers, they return to Celtic Park. It's very nice. Mönchengladbach, what are you looking for in this game? Another friendly. I know that everybody's just sick to the back teeth with friendlies and all that it does, but we're starting to get some of these marquee players that are coming back from injury, maybe getting our first glimpse of players like Joe Ledley, maybe, and fingers crossed we can get some sort of striker in the next couple of days. I know it's a very tall ask.
Yeah.
But that would be nice to see. Get Amito Balde some more time, so maybe we can have a more thorough evaluation. What are your thoughts? I mean, are you excited about this at all? Or
I am. I mean, obviously, German football is probably the strongest it's been in 20 years.
Yeah.
Borussia Mönchengladbach finished 8th in the Bundesliga last year. They're a very decent side. Couple of things about them. This is both true. One of the defenders, excuse me, a guy called Oscar Wendt, is actually the great nephew George Wendt that was in Cheers.
Oh, pass the beer nuts. Pass the beer nuts, Oscar.
Just pearls of diamonds. And also, and he's near relation, but the current manager is a Swiss guy called Lucien Favre.
Is he the uncle of Brett Favre? Or?
Well, see, this is the thing, because in America you see Brett Favre.
Right.
But obviously the name's spelled Favre.
Favre.
So we would say Favre, exactly. So, but no, I'm looking forward to it, because obviously they're going to be a decent outfit, and they've got a couple of good players, De Jong, Lucas Roth. I mean, they're top quality players. decent position last season, considering the quality that was above them that we all seen in the European Cup final and stuff like that. So I think this will be a good game. It'll be a great test. As you say, I'd like to see 2 or 3 players in there who, perhaps need a run out. Certainly Amido, as we seem to be calling him now. Certainly I've just decided we're going to call the guy Amido now. Tony Watt, perhaps. Rogic, certainly. Stephen Moyakolo, who I think I'm going to predict right now is going to become a cult hero. Because I'll tell you right now, we talked about on, was it Saturday, where his interview, and he's kind of really humble guy and all that kind of thing.
Yeah.
He was really, really good with the fans last night.
Good.
Subs come round and they all start clapping and they just basically ignore everybody, which is fine, they're constantly in the game and stuff.
Sure.
But Moyakolo done that and actually showed a bit of personality as well. And, I just think he's one of the ones that he's settled into a good player. But,
you like to see that too. That they get that and they appreciate the fact that, it's the punters that are coming out that are, that are supporting him being able to play football for a living.
Yeah. Absolutely. Apart from anything else, I absolutely love black people. Can't stand white people. So
I agree. I'm fully racist when it comes to that. I really don't like white people.
Yeah, never liked them, and so I'd like to see that. And it's going to be a Saturday, Sheerport kickoff in Paradise. The weather forecast is fantastic, and I've got a wee thing that I'm doing with. A sort of poverty thing that I'm doing. I'm kind of living on £71.70 for a week, which is what a state benefit people would live on, just to try and highlight poverty and stuff. And so a consequence of that, in terms of the money that I'm saving, is I'm able to get 3 people that wouldn't be able to afford to get into the game normally into that game on Saturday. So I'm looking forward to their kind of reactions.
Excellent.
And stuff. And I've got a real surprise for one of them. So, but in terms of the game, I think it'll be a good game. It's these friendlies, I know what you mean, we're a bit kind of friendly dude now and stuff like that, especially when you've had a wee taste of the competitive games now. But Borussia Mönchengladbach is a big name, pun intended, and I am looking forward to it, and certainly looking forward to more of your Germans.
Yeah, wunderbar, super duper. A couple of names that I'm looking forward to with this Gladbach side. Juan Arango, I've seen him in some of the Bundesliga that I've caught. Just an electrifying attacking midfielder that would be absolutely superb at Celtic, can split defenses apart. I always love to see that sort of element, the quarterback position, if you will. And another player to keep an eye out for, Ter Stegen, who is being rumored to be linked with Barcelona. So he may be playing with Gladbach on Saturday, but we might be seeing him with the Blaugrana very shortly. But I did manage to catch Gladbach the other day. They were playing against Bayern Munich in one of their local preseason cups against Bayern Munich, and they were absolutely ripped apart. Really wasn't impressed by anything, but how can you be impressed when you get absolutely no time on the ball or you don't get any possession? Bayern Munich have morphed into Pep's Barcelona. They just keep the ball the entire time, and they rip you completely to shreds. But I was a fan of Gladbach's away strip, which was a nice, attractive shade of lime green and with a slightly lighter green. And there were hoops in there, so it was interesting to see with that. And I think that
maybe we could get them over to whoever designs their strips to get on to the guy that designs ours.
That would be nice. I think that Lotto makes their strips. It's one of these throwback sides that makes them. But
they used to make a lot of Italian strips back in the day, Lotto.
Yeah.
But no, looking forward to it, definitely.
Yeah. Next topic. Thank you very much. Are we spending enough given our income this previous year? Some of the figures were released this past week about what Celtic took in, upwards of 20 million plus just from prize money, and then you factor in the television money, you factor in the Wanyama money, the pending Gary Hooper money coming in, and then the key money that we didn't spend from last season, and then you factor in tickets. We're looking at 40 million pounds, which if you compare that to the overall total turnover from the previous year, 54 million pounds, we almost doubled our intake. And with that being said, we've brought in 2 players. Granted, both of them have been in that £2.5 million mark. But are we spending enough? I know that the close season or the transfer window isn't shut just yet. But our transfer window, for all intents and purposes, pragmatically is much, much shorter. Do we need to get in gear and spend more proportionally to what we've spent in previous years?
I think we've got the scope now. I think, we've been shopping in that kind of 1 million to 2 million market for the last few years, which is fine, and I look at the turnaround of some of the players that we've got and stuff like that. But we can now have the scope to kind of move into the 3 to 4 million market, which, again, it doesn't kind of necessarily guarantee the quality, but I tell you, if I, for example, I looked up the Latvian boy that we've been linked to, right? The guy from Hamburg.
Yep.
And this guy looks like the real deal.
He does.
Yeah. I mean, this is a guy that scored goals everywhere he's went. I mean, we say this all the time. We look at Amido and we say, oh, well, he never scored many. Oh, well, I'm not expecting him to score goals. He's got to do this and that. This guy can score goals. He's 6 foot tall. He looks like an absolute flying machine. And that's the kind of market you want to be shopping in with the money we've got. And I think he'd be a real asset if we managed to get him. Don't know so much about the boy for Evian that he's. I think we both know that, or we all know that he went and looked at the boy for Evian in the French Cup final at the end of last season, and stuff like that. So again, no guarantees, but certainly spending that million or so extra certainly makes it less of a gamble, I would suggest.
Yeah.
I think nowadays as well, it's much easier to look into people's backgrounds. It's much easier to look into their temperament, their character, and all that kind of thing. You're not going into the unknown with everybody because agents are selling these players all the time.
Right.
Every single thing about them. You can't cover up anything these days, and that's certainly hampered us in the past, mentioning the names Raphael Scheidt, but perhaps it is now time, because I think the fans, I mean, I'll tell you right now, I mean, in the past, Celtic would always sign a guy on a Friday, right? And I know it's the Thursday deadline and stuff, but you unveil the guy on a Friday and you'd put 10,000 on the gate on a Saturday, always before a home game, 10,000 on the gate. We've got a home friendly, it's pay to get in, blah, blah, blah. You'd probably put 10,000 people on the gate if you signed a top quality striker and they played him on Saturday. Because if you wanted them to play against Elfsborg, then you'd have to play them on Saturday.
Yeah,
so
no
I do think that now is the time to perhaps push the boat out, and if we do have targets that are in the 3, 4, 5 million mark, now's the time to get them.
Yeah, and I think that at this point we can afford to not so much overpay, but if somebody's going to try and drive a hard bargain, Peter Lawwell doesn't need any more to show what a good negotiator he is. And if somebody wants a few £100,000, if that's what's separating us from getting a player like Nerdveds or not, I'm going to butcher his name until we have him for about 3 weeks. He's got all sorts of It's Rudnevs. Rudnevs. I mean, if it's only a few $100,000 that's separating,
Alabama.
I have no idea.
Rednecks, I mean.
Yeah, Rednecks. So we'll just refer to him as Rednecks. Well, we can call him Bubba. So Bubba from Hamburg, obviously we were looking at him before he went to Hamburg. Lech Poznan, striker for several years with a tremendous scoring quality, and we'll get more specific into that in just a minute. But if it's only a 400,000 or 500,000 gulf between us, Peter Lawwell needs to check his ego at the door and do what needs to be done in order to get him in by tomorrow. That's the cutoff, because we absolutely, like we said before, we need a poacher. We need somebody that can put the ball in the back of the net and get us through. I mean, the ultimate crime would be getting dumped out for some stupid reason because we were spendthrifts once again. And people keep saying, oh well, we need to make sure that we're going to be in the Champions League before we can spend money. That mindset is gone. That mindset is last year. When we were scrapping and trying to break a profit and just trying to make ends meet. We're not there anymore. We have this huge surplus. We have fixed costs and we have variable costs. We have variable income. We doubled our turnover. Let's put some of that to work to ensure we're going to do it again.
Yeah, because I'll tell you, if you buy a couple of these players right now and you get into the Champions League, then the only money you really need to spend from that Champions League money for this season is to reward people like Samaras and Stokes and whoever it is that need new contracts, reward them. That's all you need to do. The fans will only be asking to go out and spend £5-10 million on players, even though you would get that huge influx of money again, because we'll have a team in the park. And that's all. I mean, look, we're talking about guys like Yelovich, right? When the Huns bought him, Never played for him, etc. We know all that, but let's just look at it in the football context. He was injured for half the season. Then in mid-season, they sold their top scorer, Kenny Miller. Why? Because they knew the guy had this quality. And it was that guy that won in the league that year. He was the difference, right? And that's the kind of quality that we're looking at now. And these are the guys that put bums on seats. And then we need that at Celtic Park right now.
Couldn't agree with you anymore. Next topic, Gary Hooper. Looks as though he's off to likely going to be QPR. Apparently Norwich are still involved, but Ari, he said that everything's been agreed to, so just needs to get pen on the paper and all of that. And then it's knees up around the old Joanna for Gary Hooper. So, Paul, my question to you is, have we dealt with this Gary Hooper situation correctly? Have we done it in a savvy way? Have we handled this properly in your mind? It's going to be difficult to replace 30 goals, but reality is reality. And we have a particular business model. And what do we do now?
Well, I mean, I think we have, because I wouldn't have sold them in January. I mean, people say, we got offered $7.5 million, whatever. Fine. I still wouldn't have sold them in January. I wanted them for the Juventus games. That's the first thing. Second thing is, we're getting $5.5 million for him now, which is good. I mean, as I said last week, Chelsea bid $10 million for Wayne Rooney in exactly the same position. He's in last year's contract, blah, blah, blah. As far as Gary Hooper's concerned, wish him all the best. Think he was a fantastic player, was a big favourite of mine, done a great job for Celtic in the 3 years he was here. Will be very hard to replace, as we just talked about. Didn't wish him any ill will at all. Didn't even know when he's, I hope he goes out. Gary Hooper will score a barrel in the Championship. Didn't worry about that.
Well, he did already.
Exactly, and we are certainly a worse team. So hopefully, I hope his career goes on, and I hope he gets to the Premiership and I hope he gets to the England team, because he's done a great job for Celtic and scored some of the goals that made some of the best nights of my life. In terms of how did we handle it, I don't think we could have handled it much differently. I mean, I think it was clear Gary Hooper wanted to go. I think it's clear at that point, certainly wanted to get maximum value. I think we've probably got as much as we could possibly get, given that he's only got a year left in his contract. And it was actually quite nice to see him last night, just for that last time, and give him a reception and things like that. And I wish him all the best, and I didn't really have any regrets about the way we've handled it at all.
Yeah, Lisa Haig just sending out a tweet saying that he's been amazing for Celtic and given us a lot to be grateful for. Always gave his best. Best of luck, Gary. So that would certainly indicate that he is gone. And I would echo your statements. I certainly wouldn't wish him any ill will. We've talked, at length in the past about, maybe getting some bad counsel there in terms of his overall career. But at the end of the day, that's his decision. And we wish him the best of luck. He's been a good servant for Celtic and has scored some absolutely incredible goals, including the last goal that was ever scored in a Glasgow derby or whatever they want to call it, the Old Firm derby. Or it makes me nauseous even saying that. But with that being said, I think Peter Lowell's played a blinder with this, and here's why. Peter Lowell has a situation where a player is trying to use their leverage over him. And the player is essentially saying, I am so valuable, you can't replace me, which is a direct, and in my opinion, it's an indirect, I should say, dig at our scouting department. The fact that he finds himself so irreplaceable that he doesn't have the faith that the scouting department could replace him. So therefore, he's going to try and drive a hard bargain with the board. And Peter Lowell is essentially saying, you know what? Best of luck. We have a business model. And yes, rumor is that it's in between £5,000 and £7,000 a week less than some of our top earners, and you could probably make a case, some sort of case, although I would disagree with it, but you can make a case that he deserves to be up there with the highest paid players. But then the question becomes, well, what do you do with some of the other players who are peaking or having good performances over an extended period, who want to have their contracts redone to match that particular figure? And next thing you know, your business model's shot. Peter Lowell's making a bet, and he's basically calling Gary Hooper's bluff. And you have egos involved with this, and not just Gary Hooper's ego and Peter Lowell's ego, but the agent's ego. And I think that they're so blinded by the fact that they want to get to be paid a certain amount that they're forgetting about the fact that Celtic gives him opportunities that he will never, ever have again. Gary Hooper has won his last trophy. I mean, let's just be realistic about this. He might not realize it right now, but that's just the reality. 5 years from now, he's going to look back and think, geez, what was I thinking? And we've talked about it. He could re-sign to an improved deal that Celtic have offered him, stay another year, maybe another 2 years, and get that move to an EPL club where he'd be making even more than whatever he's going to take in with QPR just now, and he's going to have more of an opportunity to put himself in front of Roy Hodgson or whoever is going to be in charge of England and get that dream spot on the plane playing for the England national team. Again, I wish him nothing but the best, but I think that this is a horrific move in terms of his career, in terms of his future prospects, and I think it's a brilliant move on the part of Peter Lawwell and the parties involved, Neil Lennon et al. I think that this sends a message to not just Gary Hooper or the current players, but any player that comes here that says, there are players all over Europe and frankly all over the world that would love to come and play for Celtic and love to build their name and to be able to play against the likes of Barcelona in front of the entire planet and the exposure that would come from that. So I applaud Peter Lawwell for putting his faith in the scouting department, and from this time forward, I mean, any player that's going to come in and try and use their leverage, they know full well that if they don't have that dream move, that club lined up that's willing to pay a bucket load of money for them, that Peter Lawwell's not going to be bossed around, and for that I appreciate it.
Oh, I was expecting a buzzer there. To be honest.
Sorry, I had to catch my breath. Next topic. 2 new strikers that we were looking at the moment, and quite possibly 3. Paul, what do you make of this? You have a unique perspective into this, and there was some reports that were released. I believe it was through the Daily Mail and several other outlets today. What do you know?
Well, I'll tell you what I know is that when Neil Lennon deals with the press, there's the press, and then there's kind of his press, and there's 2 or 3 guys that he's kind of what you would call his kind of close confidants in terms of the press and stories he wants to get out, and therefore they get the first hit bits when he's looking at players and that. And I think one of them works for the Daily Mail, one of them works for the Daily Express, and one of them works for the Guardian. The one for the Guardian was there last night. So the ones that work for the Daily Express. So what I'm practically trying to say is if the Express and the Daily Mail come out with the stories that we're looking at him or we're looking at him, you can pretty much be certain that they've come direct from the mouth of Neil Lennon. So in terms of the actual strikers that we're looking at, as we spoke about before, it certainly looked like the look of the Latvian boy, the boy for Evian again. I mean, the pedigree seems good for these players. And they seem to be a bit different to what we've got. You if you're shopping in that market, or you're bringing in guys like Stokes for other SPL clubs and stuff like that, then they normally have one attribute or the other. They're not like a big guy like Amido, or they're kind of somebody like Stokes who can play a bit and stuff like that. But when you start moving up the millions, you get guys that can do both. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the kind of guys that we're looking at right now. As Bonnie Tyler says, we're holding out for a hero, aren't we? Because, we really need somebody to capture the fans' imagination again, I think,
I agree.
It's been a while since we've had a kind of marquee player that done that. And by marquee player, I didn't even go and spend 10 million on somebody. But somebody probably, off the top of my head, you've had cult heroes like Paddy McCourt and stuff like that, but, a Nakamura type who, really did capture the imagination and probably was the first guy to take up the mantle for Henrik in terms of that hero status. Well, obviously never be on his Henrik's level, but you know what I'm talking about, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I think the younger people that watch Celtic appreciate that more and more. Always helps if they've got a name that can rhyme. So I don't know if that's going to be good for the ones that we're looking at, but certainly I'm sure there's 1,000 Glasgow merchandise sellers watching every second the Sky Sports News, waiting to print scarves up and so on for Saturday,
Right. Yeah, I think at this point, by all accounts, we talked about Red Nevs, and I like to call him Bubba, because it does sound like redneck. If we're talking about, rhyming words, Red Nevs and rednecks, I think it fits hand in glove. The reports are that Celtic are offering $3.5 million and Hamburg want $4.5 million. So again, we're about £1 million off, and it's the type of thing where if this is going to be the difference between us potentially bringing in another £20 million, a $1 million overspend, if you want to call it, that I think for me is good business, because we don't have Gary Hooper is gone. It's been confirmed. We don't have the type of player that Gary Hooper is, that spot that he's vacating at the moment, and we're going to be in huge trouble unless we can fill that void and do it in a hurry. I mean, remember when Gary Hooper came in, we didn't have any European football, and we very nearly came a second season while he was here without any European football. So he had some time to develop and cut his teeth at the SPL level and get up to the point where he was clinical. Once we got into these European sides, we don't have the time to wait for somebody to develop. And if this Rudnev's guy can come in. I mean, he's played for Hamburg. His record speaks for itself. I think that's really what we need. This guy Saber from Evian in Ligue 1. He's just, to me, I've seen him play, and some of the YouTube clips. It strikes me that, granted, I like the cut of an African striker from a Ligue 1 side. I mean, there's the trails blazed with successful stories of that profile, but he strikes to me like the exact same attacking player stroke striker that we have at the moment that is good to run onto an out ball, but in terms of having the ball at his feet, in terms of putting away sort of those garbage goals, he just doesn't strike me as the type. We're being rumored to have bid $2.5 million for him at this point, but to me it seems a bit redundant. I mean, how many Sammys do we need?
Kevin Doyle. So I don't know if you noticed last night, but Wolves were playing and Kevin Doyle wasn't in the squad, and the manager said after it that we talked to somebody about a move. So I don't know.
Well, Neil Lennon did say that the striker that he's had his eye on is not somebody that they've been talked about.
Well, listen, I mean,
relieving.
You're talking about bidding for these two players. Let's just say we have definitely bid for these two players, 100%, right? And let's just say that because we know how kind of Peter Lawwell likes to play the game. If we get one of them, suddenly we act like the other one never existed.
Right.
We've seen that happen in the past. But let's say we brought in both of them. I think you could guarantee right there and then that Anthony Stokes will be told to go.
I would have to agree.
Because this just would not be a place if you bring in two strikers like that. On top of the fact you've already got Sammy there and people like that. So, but certainly, I mean, look, it's going to be exciting. I mean, hopefully it's not going to be frustrating. We know the score. It's going to be by tomorrow. I mean, the white transfers can happen these days. Can hit the blink of an eye. I think that the days of these protracted transfers, the protracted transfers are all basically just poker, aren't they? I mean, they're basically big money and guys who's going to blink first, and Southampton blink first with Wanyama, QPR blink first with Hooper. So this is the kind of game we play, and I think it would probably be in our interest to sign somebody tomorrow and get it done, not just for the fact that it's getting them into the Elfsborg game, but just before people actually start to realise how much money we've got.
Next topic, Paul. You have a particular expertise in this topic, although everybody who did have a chance to, and I realized that not everybody did have a chance to watch the game either on Celtic TV, on television, or if you were lucky enough to be at the game, you saw Oscar Knox was one of the mascots of the game, and it was just a great scene having Scott Brown walk him out and then running over to Hoopy and going out to the center circle. I mean, this is a culmination of a lot of hard times and a lot of time spent in a hospital and just some very dark hours, and it was just a very happy and enlightening scene to see him out there. You were there. What was the atmosphere like? Just to see the wee man in person.
Oh, it's fantastic. I mean, I deliberately was in early for that specific reason. And he was announced that he was going to be the mascot. Obviously, people who are dialed in knew this, but he announced to everybody in the stadium about maybe 15 minutes before kickoff. And without question, everybody in the stadium, burst into around the applause, which is good. Because sometimes I think we can get caught up in the internet and assume that everybody that's trained on Twitter is known by the world, and it's not always the case. But certainly, the Oscars transcended all that. When he actually came out, the first thing that struck me was how small he was.
Yeah. And
therefore how brave he must be, because, the guy's 4-year-old. He's obviously been through an incredibly traumatic time. And as you see, it was kind of like the end of a journey. And the journey for me actually started with you, Graham, because you were the first person that I heard talking about the Oscar. So I'd like to pay tribute to you. I always got abuse for abusing you, but your show was the first show that I heard that mentioned it. And then I believe you'd done an auction that money went towards it. And then not long after that, the kind of wristbands came out, and I'd been talking to Stephen Knox, who's Oscar's father, and stuff like that. And he seems a really nice, upbeat guy, and easy to be a nice, upbeat guy now, where his son's a lot better. But I'm talking about a year and a bit ago, you know.
That is tough.
Tremendous family surround him, and then just captured the hearts of the Celtic family, the people of Ireland, the people of Scotland and stuff, people of America. And then the wristbands came out. The first night I wore a wristband was at a boot launch I did September the 1st last year. And all of a sudden, I just started to see the wristbands everywhere, and I've still got on to this day. It's sky blue with the yellow writing, and just continually. And then I remember a month after that, or certainly less than a month after that boot launch, where I was arguing and having a laugh with you about the Ryder Cup, and I bet on Europe to win. You bet on America. The loser, I beg your pardon, had to give $25 to the Oscar Knox Fund, and you were crowing about it all the time. And then, of course, America collapsed. There was not many Americans getting in the hole, and Europe won, and you donated that money to Oscar Knox's gain.
Yeah.
And it's just a wonderful example of just how the Celtic family. I mean, look. We scream and we shout and we rant and we rave about football and signings and pies and bar prices and all the rest of it. This is life,
Yeah.
This is someone's life, and the Celtic supporters have played an enormous part in a laddie who we've seen all the photos and in the hospital beds and all the wires, and it just made your heart sink seeing it. To see that same laddie lead the team out of Celtic Park.
Yeah.
I mean, and as you say, Ranty Hoopy, Ranty Circle, and then he ran his father in the main stand, and I mean, what a moment! There must have been so many dark moments through these people's lives in the last couple of years. Never to have seen a day like they did last night, and I just think it's a wonderful tribute to everybody involved. But more importantly, it was absolutely amazing to see the Oscar running about.
Yeah, and I think that you covered it. That's what Celtic is about. That's what being a Celtic supporter is about. That's what we mean by we are Celtic. It's the supporters that really identify Celtic. That is what Celtic is made of. And every time you have a situation like this, that captivates all of us. We've rallied together. Like you said, I appreciate the nice things that you said about what we did. But we put together an auction, and there's maybe there's a handful of people that listen to us, and I love every one of them. And the amount of people that called in that day to donate and to talk about their thoughts and their prayers going out to Oscar, and it's just so moving. Obviously I'm familiar by now of the power that this Celtic support has, but every so often, and they are very often that you have situations that just really move you, and that was certainly one of them. That's what it means. That's what it's about. Is coming together to support those who are in need, and to see. Like you said, 4-year-old, to see him run across the pitch and to look so well. I always think back to those pictures of him lying in a hospital bed in Philadelphia with machines and tubes hooked up to him, and how heart-wrenching that is. And now to see him running across the pitch and just thinking about how great of a day that he had at Celtic Park, and to walk across the pitch, and it's just it's very meaningful, and it's why we support Celtic. Like you said, the football is great, and we can complain and moan about the way the kits look and how expensive concessions are, but at the end of the day, this is what we identify ourselves with, and this is why we identify ourselves as Celtic supporters. So
and then hopefully the last time the Oscar's at Celtic Park, and he can come over as a young man and an adult and a fully grown man, and who knows, he might even play for the team. So. Yeah,
as long as he stays away from Paddy Brennan, because the Belfast lads,
Yeah, well, there's always for every yin, there's always a yang. You know what I mean? So.
Yes, so Paddy Brennan, you're on notice as the yang of Belfast. Well, that's it. The 9th. So we've done 9 in a row. Yes, we haven't self-destructed, and we haven't morphed into I don't know, a centaur or something.
So are we going to do something special for the last show on Saturday, then, or are you going to be tied to your wife's apron strings?
Well, first off, I'm insulted because you're to a certain extent you're insinuating that all of them haven't been special. To me, they've all been special, but
but I think we should give the listeners something even more on Saturday.
Okay, I'm always up for giving the listeners more.
Yeah, so that's no. I'm not even. I'm not having a dig at you at all. I'm actually saying if anybody who's stuck with these shows for the 9 shows and I've got to be there the 10th show, we should try and do something a bit more special, a bit something extra for them if we can.
A lot of people saying that you bully me a lot. I think they're right.
Yeah, that's just because you're a spoiled brat. You're like, if anybody wants to actually complain about that, then what I should just say is just go and look at John McEnroe videos for 30 years ago and tell me umpires bullied him.
No, you're right. I am a spoiled brat. I want what I want, and if I don't get it, I'm gonna bitch. There's my microphone. How is the book coming along?
It's finished.
Oh, lovely.
It's not only is it finished, by the way, it's actually signed off on and now in the formatting stage where it goes to be in a Word document to what you actually see in the book or in the Kindle or on your iPad. That's the process it's in right now, so it can't be changed. It's done. There's no Scorsese factor. It's done. That's
very nice.
So
very nice. Now, after it's released and you have to flee Scotland, are you going to try and seek out Edward Snowden and go on the run with him, or what's your plans?
Oh well, I tell you something. I'll be looking for his advice because it looked. I mean, 1 minute Putin was like, "We didn't want this guy," and the next thing he's already got the papers to get into the country. So,
have to ask yourself, what does he have access to from what the Russians have done? I mean, he's got everything on America. He's got all the CIA stuff. So might he have some compromising issues that the CIA have brought up that he could release as well? This guy has an incredible amount of leverage, which is pretty exciting.
Yeah, it's
kind of sounds like somebody else I know.
But it's like sort of the thing I always think about is this stuff's going on now and it's happening and it's real and it kind of follows on for the Bradley Manning stuff and all that kind of thing. And yet, by and large, most of the world, does they give a shit about it?
Yeah, you're right.
You know what I mean?
You're right.
It's like, you tell anybody anything these days, and all right, aye, fine. What time's Big Brother on?
Yeah, exactly. How many people are stranded in Katrina in New Orleans? Oh, they're stuck up on the roof. Well, shit. Is Everybody Loves Raymond still going to be on, or are we going to have Anderson Cooper all night?
Yeah,
you're right.
That's I actually thought about that with this book. I thought, I didn't want to patronise people by sort of basically having the what I would call the sort of knockout punches of the book and going, you realise this is a knockout punch,
Yeah.
So just put certain things in bold so that hopefully people will see actually me, because I can reveal now, I'm revealing the cover in the blurb on the back of the book on Friday on my Facebook group, which is Paul Arkin Books, which is created by Kim Petrie. But basically,
are you going to have any of my reviews on it?
No, there's not going to be any reviews. I've only had reviews basically on 2 books, and that's it, because this story's not about me. I feature in the start of it and the build up to it, but the story itself's not about me. So
you did have a quote from me on one of the books. It was
yes, I did. That's what I just said. I had quotes on 2 books, but
Graham Wilson says Paul Arkin's The Cat's Pajamas.
Yeah, it was the quote that. The blurb. I mean, the blurb is something that I think's probably been changed about 15 times in the course of the last year, because you kind of wanted people to understand what the book's going to be about, but you didn't give too much away. So you want them to sort of go, "Oh, that looks interesting. I better buy it and read more," type thing. So the blurb's going to ask, questions, and some of the questions are things like, were EBT's Rangers' only advantage? Did Rangers win 9 in a row fairly? Who really tried to kill Celtic? Or who really put Celtic to the brink of oblivion? And what does Dolly the Sheep have to do with it all?
Yeah.
So, because I think that this book it's an independent book. I can't stand the whole publisher thing, and I've spoken to 2 publishers in the past, and I just can't be bothered with it and that kind of thing. So, I'm going to have to work my arse off to get the story out there and get as much publicity out there as possible and that. And that's kind of why loads of things have changed with the way I'm doing it, as you'll probably notice with book launches and stuff like that. It's the idea is to get the story out there, it's all about the story. But if people actually understand, and that when they read this book, they've got to change their perception about people they probably previously hated, and then they're going to understand and feel vindicated, probably in terms of what they thought might have been going on, but way, way, way beyond things like EBTs. You know, this conspiracy that went on for the last 20 years EBTs were just a pimple on its face, you know. They were just a thumbprint on the window of a skyscraper compared to the actual level of cheating and wrongdoing and advantage that was going on. That had two main goals. One was to put Rangers to the top of European football, and the other one was to kill Celtic. And I hope that people who lived through that era, and we're talking about the David Murray era here, from 1988 to 2011, I hope people that lived through that era and who supported Celtic through that era and who never gave in through that era can read this book and realise that they can actually feel vindicated, because I'm going to lay out the proof to all these questions that I've asked in black and white, and I'm going to back it up with figures and facts and all sorts of stuff that will show you the answers to these questions that I'm asking. And for anybody of my generation, as a Celtic supporter, whether they were at every game or they weren't at any games, but they loved our club and all that kind of thing, I'm going to show you why the level of kind of cheating that went against us and the things, and whilst we have a wee glimpse into the Masonic grip that's on the refereeing climate again with the SFA and stuff, these are mere minute details to the actual level of conspiracy and prejudice that went against Celtic in this era, in terms of, we're talking about an iron and vice-like grip on Scottish society. Never mind just football, never mind just the SPL, I'm talking about Scottish society. And I'm going to lay out in basic terms, after a long process of dialogue with a source and researching, snooping about places, which is something I've not done for about 10 years in terms of for research and that kind of thing. Putting facts and figures together, just, being raging quite a lot of the time, and also being quite emotional a lot of the time, because having, kind of, as many millions have lived through that era, and remembering what it was like in the Murray era, and remembering all the things we were told about not just what Murray was doing at Rangers, but what the old board was doing at Celtic, and so on, and through beyond Fergus and through the Fergus era and all that kind of thing. All these things are bullshit. That is the bottom line. They were all bullshit, and I'm going to show you why. This is the most important book that I will ever write. I'll never get another chance to write something like that, because I was very lucky, and I explain why. It was because of writing By Any Means Necessary. By Any Means Necessary, as I explain in the book, is by far the most successful book I've ever written. It's by far the most sales, by far the most exposure, by far the most talked about, by far the one I get asked about all the time, and still sells 5 or 6 copies a week actually to this day. And it's because of that book and talking about it long before it actually came out that I got the information and the source material that allowed me to write this book. And I have to be honest and say that when I finished it on Tuesday and I read right through it all again, I read through it about 7 times on Monday and Tuesday, and I looked at the bullet points again and the knockout punches, and I actually shed a tear about it, because I felt like this was the vindication that the Celtic supporters needed, that we needed to know what really went on with the old board, what really went on with David Murray, what really went on with the banks, what really went on with different aspects of Scottish society, who were the players, what was actually happening, what did Celtic have to go up against, what exactly was going against us, who exactly was killing us, why were the Bank of Scotland ready to pull the plug on Celtic? Celtic fans deserve to know this, and what they'll get for this book, I think, is they'll feel vindicated, and they will realise that the whole history of the last 20 years should never have been what it actually was. The course of history should have been completely different if it was a level playing field, but I'll show them that it wasn't.
Yeah, I think that to a lot of folks, they don't. I think nobody understands quite what this book is going to unleash. I think that a lot of folks who've written or who've read, some of your previous works and who are looking forward to this and have a basic idea aren't really fully going to grasp what this is going to touch on until they're in the midst of it. And once they do, it's exciting to think about.
Yeah, that's the hardest part for me, is actually getting people to understand the story, because in terms of how I've written this book, I've tried to show people what it was like to support Celtic before David Murray put this stranglehold on Scottish football. A stranglehold that the game has never recovered from. And even to this day, when we launch an SPFL, who do we have launching it? Graham Souness, a man at the right hand of David Murray who helped destroy the game in Scotland. Yep. Destroy it completely. Incredible. Absolutely incredible. I've tried to show at length what it was like in Scottish football for Celtic supporters, how it was a much more innocent time, It was much more brightly coloured and sunny and in our minds, because it was an innocent time and we just felt we could go about ourselves and that kind of thing. And it all changed on 23rd of November 1988 when David Murray bought Rangers. That's when it all changed. And I talk about things when I was growing up and what it was like to kind of grow up in poverty and stuff like that. And just, in a much more innocent time, because this is, as I say, and then I will explain how the source got in touch with me and the various things that I had to do to kind of cultivate that source, and the various places I had to go, the meetings and all the Skype calls and the emails and everything like that, the text messages and the kind of shouting matches I had with this person, and trying to get information and all that kind of thing. And then we'll lead you into the actual story. And as I say, the story is primarily about Celtic, it's primarily about Rangers, but it covers loads of different facets of Scottish society, and it's all intended just to show you that what we were up against, that went beyond referees. I also, in the midst of it, spoke to the guy who had done a piece, who works at the SFA, who had done a piece in the last book, which is very popular, which showed an insight into the recruiting process of the SFA, which we know was basically done through Masonic circles. This time he talks about why he thinks, running parallel to this David Murray destruction of Scottish football, there was another reason why Scottish football just stopped producing players and stopped, qualifying for tournaments and all that kind of thing. And again, it all falls back to that kind of, the funny handshake brigade and all that kind of thing. And he'll show you who some of the movers and shakers were in that funny handshake brigade. Names that you'll all know. We're talking about top football managers, we're talking about top referee and supervisors, and we're talking about a mafia, if you like, of referees who controlled the refereeing climate into the modern day, which ended 3 years ago with a certain email go out there. And so when I started to get really excited about, getting this information about, what I was going to talk about, I kind of spoke to him and he was like, right, okay, well, there's something else I want to tell you, and it started roughly in the same era, and it came right to the modern era, and that's brilliant as well, because it just shows you again what Celtic are up against, what we're up against, and why Scottish football's utter shite now is a big part of it. And as I say, then we go into all the information, and there's tons of facets, and I'm going to illustrate just how far-reaching this conspiracy was. I'm going to have line graphs in there and mind maps and all sorts of things, and just show you every connection. I'm going to show you the connections as to why. I'm going to show you the big connection between David Murray and Stuart Regan that nobody knows about. I'm going to show you the big connection between David Murray's son and a lot of the things that went on. I'm going to show you how Campbell Ogilvie never actually left Rangers. All these things that will be illustrated in clear black and white. I can back it all up with facts. And I'm going to show you a man and a name that nobody will have heard of, who basically spent 20 years committed to the destruction of Celtic Football Club, and he's somebody at the highest echelons of world society, never mind just British. And then I'll kind of talk about what it kind of meant. I've also got a lovely wee piece in there for Rogan Trevino, which kind of talks about cheating and what different aspects it can cause and all that kind of thing. And then I'll have a wee conclusion which gives you an insight into actually what really happened with the signing of Maurice Johnston when he went to Rangers, and what kind of he went through, and how he, despite him being signed to fuck us over, was never going to be accepted, not just because he was a Catholic, but because he was nouveau riche. He wasn't part of their establishment. And so I'll show you all that as well. And, I just want people to read the story, digest it, and hopefully feel vindicated.
Well, fantastic. We are very much looking forward to that. And, like you said, it's going to, just sort of flip everything right over for, a lot of the folks who, were supporting Celtic throughout the Murray years, and even, for spoiled brats like myself who latched on to the latter part of that, make us more aware and even more appreciative. So,
well, you're actually named in the book.
Am I?
Yeah, and it's not like saying, "Oh, Graham Wilson, he's a dick," or "Graham Wilson's a great guy." It was actually, there's a conversation you'll probably remember, and I'll not say it. Let the readers hopefully read it. But there was a conversation we had just before Celtic were going to get the trophy against St Johnstone, and I said you were going to do one thing, and I said to you should go in an opposite direction. And the conversation that we had and the kind of realisation you had was a catalyst for me to really push the book into a place where I wanted it to be. And so I explain all that. And, it's amazing. As I say, there's wee stories like that in it. There's a lot of people would never ever realise how much they influence me, even if it's just a tiny wee bit. Something to say or something to do or whatever, or a tweet I read or an email I read or a Facebook message or whatever. They didn't understand that that has a butterfly effect on me. With a butterfly effect being if a butterfly flaps its wings in Brazil, it can cause a typhoon in Japan. And loads of people do that for me, and so loads of people have played their part in this book. And hopefully I've mentioned them all and the kind of impact they have, on me.
A daft American flaps his gums in Virginia, and yeah. Anyway,
so what are you flapping your gums about tonight then?
I don't know. The way Kit is out now, I'm not sure I'm going to get it either. I think you talked me into the centenary top. I think I'm going to order it. Yeah, I think I just decided. I got the 1978 top, which is absolutely superb. I've washed it a couple of times. Hasn't shrunk even a bit. It fits perfectly. It's nice and soft. I love it. I feel like Johnny Doyle running around, but I need more hair.
You didn't get your wife to do your washing like?
No, I wash my own clothes.
Oh, Jesus Christ. What did you get married for?
Easy.
Easy?
Yeah.
She's easy, did you say?
No. I'm saying you. Be easy.
I mean, I know that's the only reason Chaz Duffy got married.
I mean, if Chaz Duffy didn't get married, he'd just be walking around Target over and over again, like asking people where the crisps are.
So what's the connection between Chaz Duffy and Target?
I don't know. I think we had a discussion about it once, and he said...
you said that Target was the sort of place that Chaz Duffy shops in, and
we had a discussion once, and he said it was the best chips, or the best crisps, rather, that are in America.
Target?
You'll have to ask the man himself.
There is a Target. See, the problem is like...
Up by Aqueduct.
Oh God, no, he's in the Bronx, remember?
Or what's the racetrack up? Not Aqueduct. What's the other racetrack up there?
Belmont.
Yeah, Belmont. Yeah.
Oh, you mean up in
by the reservoir?
By the reservoir.
Yeah, there's like that big thing of water up there.
Yeah, in Yonkers.
Yeah. I guess.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, the thing about it is that, like, you always think, if you go to supermarkets and stuff, like here, it's just like you walk 10 minutes. In America, it's like you're driving for 5 hours, you know what I mean?
And sit in traffic in the process.
You can't get anywhere.
Yeah.
Actually, I've got one story about Yonkers Raceway. I was on Twitter one day about 2 years ago when I was living basically about 5 minutes from Yonkers Raceway. And this comedian from America made some crappy joke. He's a Republican, this guy.
Weird.
And I said to him, I hope your fucking act is better than your tweets because they're shit, basically. And he was like, he said something like, well, you'll never see me anyway, or some shit like that. And he sent me in a DM. Now, he didn't follow me, so obviously I couldn't reply to it. And I thought, you know what, fuck this. He's playing 5 minutes of the road to me tonight. So I went up, and he basically shot himself and said, I didn't think you would come and all this sort of thing. And not that I've done anything, but Yonkers Raceway is... it's not bad, actually. That's where you get the trotters.
Yeah. Steeplechase, right?
Yeah, it's good. A lot of good bars up there. A lot of seedy bars, dive bars and stuff.
My kind of place.
Oh, you better believe it. But so I ended up going to places like White Plains. See, my mind, if I hear things like that, I always got them entrenched there. When I hear White Plains, I think about two things: 10inaRow Woman, which is where Al Pacino's brother stayed,
Hoo-ah.
and Glen Ross, where Alan Arkin says a woman from White Plains on the hook. What'd she do? She called a lawyer. You let her call a lawyer? Yeah. And it just, so that basically that's what my life's like. If I go to White Plains to the supermarkets or the malls there or whatever, going through my mind is Alan Arkin and Al Pacino, So
Hoo-ah.
Hoo-ha. Serpico's actually on the night.
I saw it the other night. It's on, periodically over here, which is always a good one. What's the best Pacino flick in your mind? I mean, don't even give me this like, well, there was younger Pacino and older Pacino. What is the Pacino flick that you enjoy the most? Just sitting down watching. Don't even worry about the genres. What do you?
I wouldn't. And I know the comedian Jay Moore, who people don't know who he is. He's Bob Sugar and Jerry Maguire.
He does the best Christopher Walken impersonation ever.
He talks about that all the time. There's three different Pacino voices. There's a long actor, there's more, and all that shit. But for me, the best Pacino flick for me is Donnie Brasco.
Ooh,
because
forget about it.
Because I tell you, right, you watch that film and you just think, oh, it's Al Pacino being Al Pacino, right? Fine.
Forget about it.
Al Pacino's playing a mobster, fine. But I've heard the surveillance tapes that Joe Costone took. He left to Ruggiero, who was the guy that Al Pacino played, like on calls and stuff like that. And then that's when you realise that it's not Al Pacino. You'd actually think it's Al Pacino on the phone to the real Joseph Costone, the real Donnie Brasco.
Yeah.
But it's left to Ruggiero, and that's when you realise how good Al Pacino is.
Yeah.
And he does come out with that immortal line in Tony's Bar on Mulberry Street where he's like,
I can hold my head up in all five boroughs. Forget about it. I'm lefty.
My mother, my family, my children. And it's because he calls him a dumpski.
Yeah.
Just absolute genius.
In all five boroughs, they know me. I'm known. Forget about it. Lefty.
I'm known all over the fucking world. Anybody ask about Lefty from Mulberry Street.
I'm known.
So I love that, and I've also got a kind of special place in my heart for 10inaRow Woman, which I just think is just so inspirational a film. It's unbelievable.
Hoo-ah.
I used to sit in my house on Sunday afternoons watching that because it's mostly the film is over a weekend, and I just used to think, God, what would it be like to be in New York now, on a Sunday afternoon like them, just, and the only disappointment is that they stayed at the Waldorf Astoria, and I've stayed at the Waldorf Astoria, and it's an absolute dump.
Hey, Left, come on, have a spritz.
Who are you talking to, my friend?
Embarrass yourself with this thing. Embarrass myself.
Come on.
This is a fugazi.
Come on.
It's a low. I got the wrong one.
Stop talking then.
I'm known. Forget about it. Have a spritz.
No.
Have a spritzer, all right? No, I can't get the volume right. Son of a...
There's a scene in it I love where they're in the club and they're playing gin rummy, as all the mob do. And the song playing in the club at the time is Neil Diamond, Love on the Rocks. And the guy wins the hand and goes, Love on the Rocks, as he goes to put the cards. And the other guy, who's Bruno Kirby, the late Bruno Kirby, says, Paulie, that ain't gin. And Lefty goes, yeah, ain't no fucking surprise neither. Just genius, just absolute fucking genius, So, but no, I mean, I love Pacino. I mean, he's in a commercial over here right now for Sky, though.
Oh yeah, I've seen that. Yeah.
Slow down.
Hoo-ah.
My lawyer, my cardiologist. Hoo-ah. That's 10inaRow Woman's brilliant for all the kind of moves. And I've actually got a wee soft spot for the Devil's Advocate and all, because that's just Al going crazy,
Yeah.
He's a sadist, that sort of shit. An absentee landlord.
That shit will get you thinking.
You're fucking right, it will.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
I mean, it's he just seems such a. I mean, I don't know, fucking what it must be like to be Al Pacino, but. I read a book about him where he had actually contributed to the book, and he was saying that he's been in rooms where presidents have voted in his presence, because because it's fucking Al Pacino, you know. It's just, you see, it's a weird fucking kind of sensation, like, you know. But you know, the man's just a fucking god, isn't he?
Yeah, I mean, you know, just a,
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's just, you know, just a gifted actor. You know, that 100 years from now, people will be, you know, still paying homage to him. You know, and the quality of work that he put out. You know, through different eras. You know, I mean, obviously he has the mafia genre completely locked over, but I mean, the quality of his acting. I mean, you bring up, you know, Scent of a Woman. I mean, how good of an actor, you know, do you have to be to put out a performance like that? I mean, you know, the one movie that strikes, I mean, it wasn't his best and it certainly wasn't acclaimed, but, you know, there's certain movies where it's like, Jesus, the storyline in this and the writing is awful, but God, the acting is amazing. I think it was called Sleepless, where he played a guy that was like an insomniac, you know, and you just, I mean, as is the case with every movie he does, you forget it's Al Pacino within, you know, the first 5 seconds, but you know, I've never been an insomniac and I've never been to that point, but, you know, as you're watching him, it's like, Jesus, like, you know, I don't even know what an example of an insomniac is, but he had me believing that he was an insomniac and this is what happened. You know, it's just like,
I mean, I think also, the film we just mentioned alone, Glenn Ross, absolutely, I mean, brilliantly written, brilliant actors. And there's just that, you know, the way he is a salesman in that, you know, the way he,
the haircut,
and he draws James Link into the whole kind of, you know, we're always looking back, looking forward. Where's the moment and all that kind of thing. And then he says, I've got something I'm going to show you here. You know, it may mean someone that may not pay attention, and then he ends up selling him all this shit. And then when the guy comes in and he does the scene with Jack Lemmon, where he's like, "Your name's D.A. Morton, you're the vice president of American Express," blah blah blah. Boom, 2 seconds, and you do that whole thing. And then of course Kevin Spacey fucks it up.
Yeah.
By saying, "Oh no, we've cashed your check, it's gone in the bank," and "Oh, I thought you cashed my check," and fucking Al Pacino eventually just turns around to him and goes, "You stupid fucking cunt," and he just absolutely fucking tears into him. You fool, you can't.
The leads are weak. Fucking leads are weak. You're weak.
The leads are weak. Alec Baldwin in that movie was absolutely unbelievable.
I know. And I know the backdrop to that as well, actually, was that that part that Alec Baldwin plays is not in the stage play. It's not in the Broadway play.
Right.
They wrote that for the film.
And it was all like, you know, 5 minutes before he went down there, right?
Yeah, because he knew that they'd already been shooting for 2 weeks, and they all, you know, the big actors, Ed Harris, Alan Alkin, Pacino, you know, Jack Lemmon was fucking amazing in it. And they were all like, "Oh, this guy Baldwin's coming in the day," and he kind of got wind of that, and he used that anger against them when he went in, and you see him, you know, "Put that coffee down," and it's like, you know, they're all sort of sneering at him, and he's like, he goes, "My watch costs more than your fucking car," you know, and it's just all that kind of stuff.
I drove here in an $80,000 BMW. You drove here in a Hyundai. Fuck you, that's my name.
Exactly. What's your name? Fuck you, that's my name. Mitchell Murray asked me to come downtown. I said, for a favour, I said, real favour was to fucking fire your fucking ass, you know, and it's just... and these are the new leads.
First prize is a Cadillac Eldorado. Second prize, set of steak knives. Third prize is you're fired. Hit the bricks, pal, and beat it, because you're fucking out of here.
The reason why these movies are getting better and better is because we didn't see films like that now.
Yeah,
it's
you're
all right. CGI and it's fucking...
Well, it's like music.
Yeah.
You know, I'm sitting around listening to the Doobie Brothers. You know, like, oh, this is... I mean, compared to the Justin Bieber and all that bullshit, you know, I'd rather sit around and listen to, you know, the Steely Dan Aja album 35 times rather than listen to any of the, you know, My Bitch, My Hoe, you know, all the new stuff.
Yeah, I've got a theory about Justin Bieber. I think that is the Truman Show. I think that he's being controlled by people 24 hours a day. He's basically like a youth pop star Manchurian Candidate.
Yeah.
Who is getting controlled, and it's like, oh, wait a minute, Justin, sales of your record went down by like 200 million this week. We need to go and punch fuck out a paparazzi guy to get you back in the news all over again.
It's almost like a science experiment.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden, Justin just fucking runs out and karate kicks some fucking guy, and you're just like, what the fuck is this, you know?
Here,
And,
I'm gonna get one of his songs on YouTube. Let's see how long we can last. All right, I'll bet you I can last. I'll bet you I don't last. Here, now
I don't think I've actually heard one, but on you go.
I don't think I've heard one before, but it has all the the video bullshit. Like there's all this acting and Justin Bieber driving a Lincoln Continental. Here we go. It's trying to describe the video. It's like it's Justin Bieber with like another 15-year-old girl and. Wow, this is some deep writing, Like, we could be homeless, we could be starving. Yeah, you know what? If we could get another like Penny Lane just by killing him, I'd give me the gun. I'll do it.
Because when you played that, all I could think he was. That's all I could think he. I mean, this is Bill Hicks me fucking 20 odd years ago. Like fucking, play from your fucking heart.
Yeah, exactly.
I want my rock stars dead. Thank you very much. So I hope you enjoyed the show and blow their fucking head off. And they always say that if Bill was still alive now, what would he shout about? Because then he fucking used to shout about Debbie Gibson and George Michael and George Bush. And they say, well, Britney Spears is Debbie Gibson, Ricky Martin's George Michael, and George Bush is George Bush. So I mean, it just nothing ever changes.
Yeah,
nothing ever fucking changes. I mean, it's like
yeah, but it's getting worse though. It's getting worse. At least when Debbie Gibson was out, there was some sort of alternative that I mean, there was some sort of palatable music. People that grew up, and I'll lump both of us in the same generation. We didn't have to go back. Although I appreciated the music that my parents listened to, I didn't have to go back and listen to the music that my parents did. Now it's like I can't find a new song that I can make it 5 seconds through anymore. I mean, when has that ever happened? When
there's actually somebody we talked to a couple of weeks ago about Van Halen. And Van Halen's not somebody who had immediately go, oh yeah, I'm a big fan, etc. Right?
I'm a big fan.
I listened to David Lee Roth talking about the song Jump, and he was basically saying,
he said, "Skibidi bidi."
They were right. That was obviously their big thing, and what it was they were playing concerts and stuff like that, and they just weren't making it. And this one guy at this club says, you know what your problem is? And he goes, your fucking songs are too fucking heavy duty. People can't dance to them. And he's like, what do you mean? He says, I've watched people, they try and dance, their drink falls out their hand and all this. He says, you need to fucking slow it down, man. So whatever the fuck the technical term is to bring it down, whatever, Ken.
Look, I can't dance when you're playing Panama when I'm trying to hold my sex on the beach. All right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So they were like, well, how do we do this? Because they were at that time were just like hard rocking, and that's when they wrote that song, Jump. In other words, just jump and go for it,
It's about a Tom Collins.
That story, and you listen to the song, it's a really inspirational song because it applies to anything.
Might as well jump.
Jump and just go for it. That's kind of, if you believe in your dream, go for it. And
make like a tennis shoe and just do it.
Oh yeah. That's a great phrase, yeah. Stop using that buzzer.
Well, I'm getting requests. Chaz Duffy's in chat, and he wants buzzes. I guess it catches on, the buzzer.
You sure he means the buzzer?
I don't know what he means.
Probably like Kanzi deodorant or something.
That seems reasonable.
Yes.
Well, Paul, I think it's time. 9 in a row. So Saturday will be the big day. We'll go for 10 in a row, and we'll cap this off. The homeboys are back.
We have stuff ready. Wait now, we have stuff ready by then. Stuff you've been promising like for the last 2 weeks.
Well, I don't think there should be any reason why we can't.
Well, there is you.
Listen.
You're the Jim Goodwin of this show.
This is when the Jim Goodwin. Yeah, I'm the. Lovely. Listen, this is the part of the show when you start bullying me. People don't like this. You're driving the listeners away.
You say that, but I tell you, I get thousands of people getting in touch with me saying, kill.
I want to see it. I don't believe you.
Oh, yeah. No, but I say, so we're going to have a different buzzer on Saturday.
We'll have a different buzzer, and we'll have all sorts of other shenanigans that we can discuss. Mm-hmm. Whatever you want. Listen, I serve you.
Well, I think as well that we should keep the topics secret for each other.
All right, so 5 and 5, and we won't tell each other.
It can be anything.
Jesus.
I mean, it can be literally anything.
Yeah, this is going to be great.
It will only be litigious, but, you know.
Litigious? I mean, we're just doing a podcast. What are you talking about litigious?
Well, Chaz Duffy's on the phone to his lawyer right now.
Jesus, I'm not far behind them.
Usually Americans like to sue for anything, don't you?
No, I'm just all about covering my own ass.
Oh, well, I've heard that about you.
Yeah, exactly. one way.
None of me women's skin like Buffalo Bill when the times
one way traffic, my friend. That's disturbing.
American girl.
All right, Paul. Thank you.
But no, I can see you tucking yourself in and dancing in front of a mirror.
Tucking myself in and then dancing in front of a mirror.
Goodbye, horse. Or maybe that's just my dream.
Right. Well, I'll be sure to try and put that together, as well as some topics for Saturday, and we'll review, of course, the game against Borussia Mönchengladbach. Yeah, it is good. Ah, wunderbar.
German stereotypes.
Lovely. Yeah. Well, listen, I will have plenty of schnitzel.
Actually, that's another thing I think you could organise, right, if it's not too much trouble, right? You know, because normally you'll go off the air and start bitching.
Right. Yeah.
Which is
schnitzel eating.
We mentioned the Borussia Mönchengladbach game, right?
Yeah.
If anyone makes any German stereotype or Nazi reference or World War II or anything, there should be a different buzzer.
Okay. So, like, if I were to say, there wasn't enough leather out there for me, it'd be like 9.
Yes, something like that.
All right, so I'll get a buzzer that would be like 9.
Yeah, like Hermann Goring or.
Oh, I know nothing. I see nothing. I was not here. Hogan.
That's Campbell Lugovic, is it not?
might as well be.
Right, okay, we'll wrap it up and we'll have an extravaganza for everybody on Saturday. We can go on for days.
An extravaganza pending, but until then, for Paul Larkin, I'm Graham Wilson. Hail, hail, and keep the faith.
Bye.